The twin moons of Verdania cast silver shadows across the endless fields of golden grain. Kale wiped sweat from his weathered brow as he finished his evening rounds, checking the irrigation systems that kept his farm alive on this frontier world. At 32, he had spent the last decade building this place from nothing. His only companions, the whisper of wind through crops and the distant songs of nightbirds. Something moved in the eastern field. Kale froze, his hand instinctively reaching for the plasma rifle mounted by his door. Raiders were rare this far from the shipping lanes, but desperate people did desperate things on worlds like Verdania. He grabbed the weapon and his portable light. Stepping into the cool night air, the figure was small, graceful, moving between the grain stalks with practiced stealth. As Kale crept closer, he could see delicate hands carefully selecting the ripest ears of corn, filling a makeshift bag with methodical precision. Not a raider then, but a thief, nonetheless. "Stop right there," Kale called out, raising his rifle. The figure spun around, and his breath caught in his throat. She was beautiful in an otherworldly way, with skin that held a faint luminescence like captured starlight. Her hair fell in silver cascades past her shoulders, and her eyes were the deep purple of Verdania's evening sky. She was clearly not human. "Please," she whispered, clutching the stolen grain to her chest. "I meant no harm. I was only taking what I needed to survive." Kale kept his weapon trained on her, though something in her voice made his resolve waver. "This is my land, my crop. You can't just take what doesn't belong to you." Tears glistened in those violet eyes. "I know, and I am ashamed, but I have not eaten in 3 days. My people, we are not welcome in the settlements." Her accent was musical, each word carefully chosen, as if basic was not her native tongue. "What are you?" Kale asked, curiosity overriding his anger. "My name is Zara. I am Stellari, one of the few left on this world." She slowly lowered her hands, showing she carried no weapons. "We were refugees once, seeking sanctuary among the stars. Now we are scattered, hunted, forgotten." Kale studied her face in the harsh glare of his light. Exhaustion lined her delicate features, and he could see the sharp angles of hunger in her cheeks. Her clothes were travel-worn and patched. "Speaking of long days on dangerous roads, the grain you're stealing feeds me through winter," he said, though his voice had lost its edge. "Then let me earn it," Zara said suddenly, stepping closer despite the rifle between them. "I know farming, animal care, food preservation. Give me a chance to repay what I have taken, and I will work harder than any machine. And why would I trust an alien thief?" Her chin lifted with sudden pride. "Because among my people, a debt of sustenance is sacred. If you feed me when I starve, I am bound to you until that debt is repaid with interest. It is our way." Kale lowered his weapon slightly. There was something in her manner, a dignity that poverty could not diminish, that made him believe her words. The farm was too large for one person anyway, and the loneliness had been eating at him longer than he cared to admit. "One mistake, one broken promise, and you're gone," he said finally. Relief flooded her luminous features. "You will not regret this kindness, Kale of Verdania," he startled. "How do you know my name?" A small smile graced her lips. "Word travels far when someone shows mercy to strangers. Your reputation for fairness precedes you." As they walked back toward his farmhouse under the watching stars, Kale wondered what he had just invited into his carefully ordered life. Trust in the dawn, the first rays of Verdania sun painted the sky in shades of amber and rose as Kale emerged from his house to find Zara already at work. She moved through the vegetable garden with fluid grace, her luminescent skin seeming to glow more brightly in the early light. She had somehow managed to repair the broken irrigation line he had been putting off for weeks. "You're up early?" he called. Approaching with 2 steaming cups of caf, Zara accepted the drink gratefully, her fingers brushing his as she took the cup. The brief contact sent an unexpected warmth up his arm. "My people are children of starlight. Dawn is when we are strongest." They worked side by side throughout the morning, and Kale found himself impressed by her knowledge and skill. She knew which plants needed more water, which soil compositions worked best for different crops, and she moved with an efficiency that spoke of years of experience. "Where did you learn so much about farming?" he asked as they took a break in the shade of his equipment shed. Zara's expression grew distant. "My homeworld, Stella, was an agricultural paradise. We fed half the sector before." She trailed off, pain flickering across her features. "Before what?" "Before the war came. Before our world burned, and we became scattered refugees seeking any haven that would take us." She looked up at him. "Few worlds welcome Stellari anymore. We are seen as reminders of loss, of what happens when civilizations fall." Kale felt an unexpected surge of protectiveness. "Their loss is my gain, then." "You work harder than 3 hired hands?" A genuine smile lit her face, transforming her from merely beautiful to absolutely radiant. "You speak kindly, but I have only begun to repay my debt as the day wore on." Kale found himself stealing glances at his unexpected companion. The way she hummed while working, a melody that seemed to make the plants themselves sway in response. The graceful curve of her neck as she bent to tend the seedlings. The musical quality of her laughter when he made a clumsy joke. That evening, as they sat on his porch watching the twin moons rise, Zara broke the comfortable silence. "Why do you live alone out here, Kale? A man like you should have a family, children to carry on his legacy." He stared out at the fields, memories stirring like dust in wind. "I was engaged once to a woman from the capital settlement, but she decided frontier life wasn't for her. She left for the core worlds and never looked back." "She was a fool," Zara said softly. "This place, what you have built here, it is beautiful. It takes strength and vision to create something lasting from nothing." Their eyes met in the moonlight, and Kale felt something shift between them, a recognition that ran deeper than words. Zara seemed to sense it too, her luminescent skin brightening slightly as color rose in her cheeks. "I should prepare dinner," she said, standing quickly. "Zara," he called as she reached the door. She turned back to him, framed in the warm light from his house. "I'm glad you stayed." Her smile was like sunrise after a long night. "So am I, Kale of Verdania." "So am I," as she disappeared into the house. Kale remained on the porch, wondering when exactly his lonely sanctuary had started to feel like a home. 3 weeks had passed since Zara's arrival, and the farm had never looked better. She had not only repaid her initial theft, but had improved yields beyond anything Kale had achieved alone. More than that, she had filled the silence of his days with laughter, conversation, and a warmth he had not realized he was missing. Tonight, she sat beside him on the porch swing he had built, their shoulders touching as they watched shooting stars streak across the vast sky. Her presence had become as natural as breathing, yet the electricity between them grew stronger each day. "The stars are particularly bright tonight," Zara murmured, her voice carrying a note of melancholy. "Is that significant to your people?" She was quiet for so long he thought she might not answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Bright stars often mean ships in orbit. Sometimes they are traders, explorers, settlers seeking new homes." She paused, her hand unconsciously moving to a pendant at her throat. "Sometimes they are hunters." Kale turned to study her profile in the moonlight. "Hunters? Who would be hunting you?" Zara's luminescence dimmed, as if her very essence was trying to hide. "My people were not merely refugees, Kale. We were survivors of a genocide. The hegemony labeled us dangerous after we refused to surrender our ancestral technologies. They claimed we were a threat to galactic stability." "What kind of technologies?" She held up her hand, and Kale watched in amazement as soft light began to emanate from her palm, growing brighter until it illuminated the entire porch. "We can channel stellar energy, store it in our bodies, use it to heal, to grow things, to defend ourselves. The hegemony wanted to weaponize our gifts. When we refused, double quotes, the light faded, leaving them in shadow again. They tried to eliminate us all. Most of my people are gone now. The few who remain are hunted by bounty hunters seeking the rewards placed on our heads." Kale felt a chill that had nothing to do with the night air. "How much is the bounty?" Enough to buy a small moon. Her smile was bitter. I am particularly valuable because I am one of the last who remembers the old ways, the true applications of our gifts. Without conscious thought, Kale reached over and took her hand in his. Her skin was warm, and he could feel the subtle pulse of energy beneath it. No one will hurt you while you're here. I promise. Zara turned to look at him, surprise, and something deeper flickering in her violet eyes. You would risk your life for someone you have known mere weeks. I would risk my life for you, he said simply. The words coming from somewhere deeper than rational thought. The air between them seemed to shimmer with unspoken possibilities. Zara's free hand rose to touch his cheek, her fingers tracing the line of his jaw with infinite gentleness. Kale, she whispered, his name a prayer on her lips. He leaned closer, drawn by forces he could not name and did not want to resist. Their lips met in a kiss that was soft and tentative at first, then deeper as she responded with surprising passion. Her luminescence flared briefly, bathing them both in gentle starlight. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. Zara's eyes were wide with wonder and something that might have been fear. I should not, she began. But Kale silenced her with another kiss, this one tender and full of promise. Stay with me, he murmured against her lips. Not as payment for a debt, but because you want to. Because this, what is happening between us, is worth more than all the grain in my fields. Tears glittered in her eyes as she nodded. And when she spoke, her voice was thick with emotion. I had been alone so long, I had forgotten what hope felt like. Then let me remind you, Kale said. Standing and offering her his hand, she took it without hesitation, and together they walked into the house, into whatever future they might build together. Hearts under fire, the attack came at dawn, just as Zara's people were strongest. Kale woke to the sound of plasma fire and his security alarms screaming warnings. Beside him, Zara bolted upright, her skin blazing with defensive light. They have found me, she gasped, already moving to gather her clothes. Kale grabbed his rifle and peered out the window. 3 sleek hunting ships had landed in his fields, and armed figures were advancing on the house with military precision. He could see the distinctive red armor of hegemony bounty hunters. How many? Zara asked, her voice steady, despite the fear in her eyes. Dozen, maybe more. Kale checked his weapons charge. There's an old bunker beneath the house. Colonial era. You can hide there while I know. Her voice carried absolute conviction. I will not cower while you die for me. We fight together or not at all. Before he could argue, the front door exploded inward. Kale returned fire, driving the first wave back, but he knew they were vastly outnumbered. Beside him, Zara raised her hands, and brilliant light erupted from her palms, striking the nearest hunter and sending him flying backward through the ruined doorway, the rear exit. Kale shouted over the sound of weapons fire. We make for the equipment shed. Better defensive position, they fought their way through the house room by room. Zara's powers were devastating at close range, but Kale could see the strain wearing on her. Each use of her abilities dimmed her natural luminescence a little more. The leader of the hunters, scarred woman with cold eyes, appeared in the kitchen doorway. Surrender the Stellari human, and we will let you live. This is not your fight, like hell it isn't, Kale snarled, putting himself between Zara and their attackers. The woman smiled without warmth. Have it your way. The battle that followed was brutal and desperate. Kale's military training from his colonial defense days served him well, but they were being pushed back, step by step. Zara's power flared and dimmed in waves, her strength clearly ebbing. I cannot maintain this much longer, she gasped, sweat beading on her brow. Then we make our last stand count. Kale replied grimly. They had reached the equipment shed when reinforcements arrived from an unexpected quarter. The night sky erupted with weapons fire as a stellary ship, ancient but graceful, descended like an avenging angel. Zara's people had come for her. My cousin Jira, Zara breathed, hope and relief warring in her voice. I thought she was dead. The tide of battle turned swiftly. Caught between the shed and the ship, the bounty hunters found themselves outgunned and outmaneuvered. Most fled to their vessels. But the scarred leader made one last desperate charge. Kale stepped forward to intercept her. But the hunter was fast, inhumanly fast. Her blade found its mark, sliding between his ribs with surgical precision. As he fell, Zara's scream of rage and anguish echoed across the battlefield. What followed was not battle but judgment. Zara's power, fueled by love and fury, erupted in a pillar of stellar fire that reached toward the stars themselves. When it faded, nothing remained of the hunter but scorched earth. Zara collapsed beside Kale, her hands glowing as she pressed them to his wound. "Stay with me," she pleaded, pouring her remaining strength into healing him. "Do not leave me now, not when we have found each other." Kale felt warmth spreading through his chest, the pain receding as her power worked its miracle. "I am not going anywhere," he whispered, reaching up to touch her tear-stained cheek. "This is my home. You are my home." As dawn broke over the battlefield, painting the sky in shades of victory and hope, Zara's cousin Jira approached. She was older than Zara, with silver threading her dark hair, but her eyes held the same luminous quality. "Little star," Jira said softly, kneeling beside them. "We have been searching for you across half the galaxy." "I found something worth staying for," Zara replied. Helping Kale sit up, his wound was completely healed, though he still felt weak. Jira looked between them, understanding dawning in her ancient eyes. "Then perhaps it is time for our people to stop running and start building again." 6 months later, Kale's farm had transformed into something beyond his wildest dreams. The Stellari refugees, led by Jira, had established a settlement in the valley beyond his fields. Their combined knowledge of agriculture and stellar energy had turned the entire region into a paradise of productivity and beauty. Kale stood in his expanded fields, watching Zara work among the grain that now grew twice as tall and golden as any he had ever seen. Her people's gifts had enhanced everything they touched. But it was her presence that had truly changed his world. "The harvest will be ready soon," she said, appearing at his side with that fluid grace he had come to love. Her luminescence was stronger now, no longer dimmed by fear and hunger, but bright with contentment and hope. "Our harvest," he corrected, slipping an arm around her waist. "I seem to remember a certain thief promising to work my fields by day and stay by my side at night." Zara laughed, the sound like music on the wind. "I believe I have fulfilled that promise, though perhaps not in the way either of us expected." The settlement beyond buzzed with activity as Stellari children played in gardens that bloomed with flowers from their lost homeworld. Their parents worked alongside human farmers, sharing knowledge that benefited both peoples. It was an integration born not of desperation but of mutual respect and affection. "Jira says the hegemony has officially rescinded the bounties," Zara said, leaning into his embrace. "We are no longer hunted. We are free to build new lives." "And what kind of life do you want to build?" She turned in his arms, her violet eyes shining with love and mischief. "The kind that starts with this." She held up her left hand, where a simple ring of woven starlight circled her finger. Stellar engagement token she had crafted herself. Kale's breath caught. "Zara, ... double quotes, among my people, when we find our true match, our soul's companion. We bind ourselves with light and love." Her luminescence flared brighter. "Will you have me, Kale of Verdania? Will you let me stay by your side, not as a debt to be repaid, but as a choice freely made?" In answer, he lifted her off her feet and spun her around, both of them laughing with pure joy. When he set her down, he cupped her face in his hands. "I love you, Zara of the stars. I would be honored to be your husband, to build a life and a future with you among these fields." Their kiss was witnessed by the rising twin moons and blessed by the light of distant stars around them. The farm that had once known only solitude now echoed with the sounds of community, of hope, of home. As they walked back toward the house they would soon share as husband and wife. Kale reflected on the strange turn his life had taken. A theft in the night had become the greatest gift he had ever received. A desperate alien refugee had become the love of his life. "What are you thinking about?" Zara asked, noticing his contemplative mood. Just that sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places. He squeezed her hand gently. A thief in my fields became the light of my world, and a lonely farmer became my salvation, she replied. Perhaps that is how the universe works, bringing together those who need each other most, even when they do not know they are searching. Above them, shooting stars streaked across the night sky, but neither made a wish. They had already found everything they ever wanted in each other's arms. In this place they had made their own. In the love that had grown from the smallest seed into something that would last among the stars forever. The farm slept peacefully, under the watching moons, no longer the domain of solitude, but a beacon of hope where two worlds had become one, where love had conquered fear, and where every dawn brought new possibilities as endless as the sky itself.